Welcome to Season 2 of the Erotic Realm podcast, where we explore the world of eroticism, one erotic realm at a time. I'm Em, a sexologist and kinkster. The mission of the Erotic Realm is to humanize desire in all of its forms, including darker desires. Each episode, we dive deep into the psychology of desire with a sexpert, everyday kinkster, or a kink expert. This is an independent podcast. To support it, please consider becoming a paid subscriber at psychologyofdesire.com, where you'll also find deep dives into desire and surveys that you can participate in. You can also sign up there to get the podcast delivered directly to your inbox when it's released. If you'd like to support the podcast, please consider checking out the brands that support the Erotic Realm. There's Firm Tech, whose tech ring offers fascinating insights into sexual health by tracking erection quality and nocturnal function. Splash Blanket, who create luxurious waterproof blankets designed for comfort, intimacy, and real-life messes. ProDX Health, who offer discreet, at-home STI testing. While Karoo and Lovents make premium pleasure technology, from couple toys to long-distance interactive devices. Then there's Lioness, who are doing something truly unique in sex tech, using biofeedback and orgasm data to help people better understand their arousal. I'm also partnering with Flow and Desire, science-backed libido support supplements designed to support sexual vitality and well-being. These are brands that I find genuinely interesting, science-backed, and I've used them myself, so they come with my recommendation. You can find the links to all of them in the episode description. If you try them, use the links below. It supports the show at no extra cost to you. And now, back to today's conversation. The following conversation explores what happens when we stop treating jealousy, security, and erotic novelty as problems to eliminate, and instead start getting curious about what they might be telling us about desire. In this episode, I'm joined by relationship coach, non-monogamy educator, and pleasure advocate, Ally Iseman from Passport to Pleasure. We explore Ally's own erotic psychology, her experience of balancing power and submission, and why being highly directive in everyday life can sometimes create a desire to surrender erotically. Along the way, we explore erotic jealousy, the tension between security and novelty, sensual empowerment, pleasure as social change, and the fascinating emerging concept of Symbiosexuality, which is attraction not simply to individual people, but to the energy and relationship that exists between them. This is a conversation about designing relationships more consciously, becoming more literate in our desires, and questioning some of the assumptions that we've inherited about what love, commitment, and pleasure are supposed to look like. Enjoy. Hi everyone, and welcome to the Erotic Realm. Today, I'm delighted to be exploring the erotic realm of Ally Iseman from Passport to Pleasure. Welcome, Ally.
Thank you so much for having me. Very excited for this conversation.
Yeah, me too. So before we dive into you and your erotic psychology, let's hear a little bit about you as a human. What does your day-to-day life look like right now, and what do you get up to when you're not exploring sexuality?
There is no day-to-day as far as routine. I think I try to maintain as much routine as I can in my bookends, I call them, my mornings and my evenings, just to sort of return to home base, my body.
Cool.
So that can look breath work, meditation, movement, whether that's, going to the gym, going for a walk, yoga, something like that, stretching, even depending on the day. I love to make a nice hot beverage first thing in the morning. And then that sandwich of those sort of morning and evening routines can be around anything from, being on a set, photo shoot, or media commentary, something like that, or it can be clients for half the day. It can be working on my book. Can be travel if I'm going to speak at a show or something like that. So it really is as novel and filled with variety as I like my sex life to be as well.
Love that. I love the bookend as well, using that metaphor. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about your eroticism. How do you currently identify, both in terms of your sexuality and your kink identity?
I think I like to talk about my sexuality and then my relational orientation as well,
Mm-hmm.
because that's very intrinsic to me. So sexually, you can say bisexual. I'm comfortable with that. For me, it doesn't really encompass in totality. So I like the terms demisexual, or I jokingly also yes sexual. I have a strange fascination with enjoying having sex with people who are attracted to me and would like to have sex with me. So it's a wild thing. I don't find that it's, dictated by gender, which is why I understand like demisexuality to be that, sort of energetic connection.
Mm-hmm.
And then my relational identity, my relational orientation is consensually non-monogamous. So I've been in polyamorous dynamics, open relationships. I was a serial monogamist for the first 30 years of my life and found that really just didn't hold the container for the fullness of love and connection that I'm able to and interested in nurturing in my life. So hopefully that rounds out to make sense. I feel like I forgot part of your question, so I want to make sure.
I was also asking about your kink identity, if you're exploring kink. Mm-hmm.
I mean, for me, I'm really led by curiosity in every area. So I'm just, if I haven't tried it or thought of it, I'm generally a yes, just to find out. So I don't know how to necessarily encompass that. I mean, one of my primary partners is my dom. I'm a sub in that dynamic, and it's not like the exclusive role our relationship plays, but it is a large part of how we interact, and that can look different ways, whether we're out at a non-kink related event or we're just at home. That looks a lot of different ways, but he is always my daddy dom in that dynamic.
Beautiful. So do you have a top 3 kinks currently that you're enjoying exploring, or are you more, try everything?
I mean, yes. The answer to both of those. This relationship I just mentioned has been an incredible and unexpected container for exploring erotic jealousy, which is something I've always been very, very curious about. I'm very experienced with compersion and erotic compersion, but I've always been a little bit curious to see if there was that same erotic potential in jealousy. And it's something I kind of got to flirt with a little bit here and there. But this container of this particular relationship is so deeply secure and mutual that I've been able to, I should say we've been able to really step into that and really start exploring it along with the healing potential. I think jealousy in general, and then specifically erotic jealousy, are some of the most misunderstood and underutilized emotional experiences we can have in relationships. Avoiding them does so much more damage, I think, than just addressing them and learning to work with them.
Okay.
So I'd say erotic jealousy, power dynamics are always something I'm looking to explore. And I know that's a big umbrella for a lot of different things. But I can be a little switchy. So I'm going to be starting to kind of venture into that a bit more. Hopefully with my girlfriend, definitely with my boyfriend. And pegging is also something I've enjoyed in the past and would like to continue exploring.
A lot of fun things there. I'm fascinated by the term erotic jealousy because I know compersion well, and we've explored that before on the podcast, but no one's ever mentioned erotic jealousy and said that it's different to compersion. Can you explore that a bit for us, please?
Absolutely, my pleasure. One of my favorite topics to talk about right now. So if you think about kind of 4 quadrants on a 2-plane graph, right? You have one plane is from compersion to jealousy, and the other plane, x-axis, y-axis, and the other axis is eroticism or aroused to non-aroused. So compersion on one end, compersion is an emotional experience. Jealousy is an emotional experience. Arousal is a physiology, a desire, right? The psychology of desire, as we're talking about here, right? So it is the erotic component is not necessarily, neither compersion nor jealousy are necessarily erotic, but both can be. So if compersion to jealousy is the emotional side of things, compersion feels good. Jealousy does not feel good. Either of them can be erotic or not. So does that help you kind of break down so you can have jealousy, still does not feel good. The experience is not a pleasant emotional experience, but the eroticism is there, the physiology of arousal, of turn on is there. And that's erotic jealousy versus without that turn on, without that erotic desire, that arousal. It's just jealousy.
And how are you exploring this with your partner? You mentioned that it's come up a few times in your relationship. Are you simply naming it, or are you actively evoking that feeling in each other?
Both. For me, it's something I'm curious about more so than him. Like, he loves that he gets to provide that container for me. He doesn't really get aroused by jealousy. So it's really more something we're exploring for me. But it can be, the key components are safety and consent for me. Like, I need to know anyone who's involved, if we're acting this out with a third party, say, for example, cuck queening, something like that, me watching rather than cuckolding, him watching. So obviously the other person or persons involved needs to be very aware of what we're doing in order for me to be enabled to be turned on. They also need to feel safe. I need to know that they know their own boundaries. They can communicate with us clearly. They're understanding our boundaries. If we need to, pause it for a minute or whatever, they're down. It needs to be a co-created experience with all parties, whether it's just the two of us or if we're bringing anyone else in. Because we can play with it in fantasy. Absolutely. Say we went to a play party or whatever, there was someone I felt a way about. Maybe we didn't play or what have you. We can play with it in fantasy, or we can, again, with consent and letting the other folks know, do so in real time as well with other people.
Okay. Sounds really interesting. Can you share
it's
more?
Been really, really fun.
Yeah, cool. Can you share more about the work that you do? What's your area of expertise?
So I'm a certified relationship coach, certified through the International Coaching Federation. I've been working primarily with couples, but I do work with individuals and relationship styles of all shapes and sizes, but primarily couples who are at a transition point. So they're looking to explore kink. They're looking to maybe open up their relationship and, whether explore polyamory or open relationships or swinging, or maybe they're just looking to, maybe go to play parties and they're not sure what that means. I work with couples at this transition point to help them do that exploration in as safe and mutually respectful way as possible. And that's the work I do through Passport to Pleasure, which is my platform.
Beautiful. And you mentioned that you're writing a book as well. Is it about this topic or something else?
Yes is the short answer. So I don't want to give too much away, but cool. It is, as far as I know, a format that has never really been explored in this subject matter when it comes to relationships, but it's around the concept of intentional relationship design. Modern relationships are people waking up to the scripts that we've been given aren't serving them. And so they want to create the love life of their dreams, not somebody else's. And this book literally helps you build your own roadmap, but actually makes it fun, because who the hell wants to work on something else when we all have 3 jobs, can't pay rent? How do we gamify the exploration of what I call going on your relation trip? So the purpose of this book is helping you build the unique roadmap for your own relation trip.
Very intriguing. I love the gamifying metaphor again. Beautiful. You've mentioned that you also work with high-performing professionals. What patterns do you see in how ambition, power, and desire tend to collide in people's intimate lives?
Well, I see the main differentiator is acknowledgement or lack thereof. So if, say, for example, I think an easy entry point is power dynamics. For example, if we have, 2 individuals very high achieving in their own right, in their own work, in their own field, what have you, there can often be sort of an imbalance in their relational dynamic if they're not acknowledging any balance needs around that power dynamic. Say, one or both need more of a submissive role when it comes to their erotic life, and they don't know how to access that or how to even have that conversation together. So when I say I help couples, open up without breaking up, it doesn't necessarily mean opening up to like a third party or another person or exploring non-monogamy. It can, but it really is about opening up to each other. They have all these tools to excel in their work life, all these communication skills, and a lot of them actually are applicable in our romantic lives, but we we have this block that doesn't like cross over. So it's me sort of applying the language of love and romance and attraction to skill sets they actually already have, just in a new environment. Does that make sense?
Totally. Mm. Now, one of the traditions on the podcast is exploring a quote with you. And today it's a little bit different because I wanted to ask you more about a quote from you. So I saw this on your LinkedIn and I just had to dig in deeper. At the top, you say, if our world leaders were better fucked, we'd be less fucked. Yes. I love this sentiment. So when you say this, what are you really pointing to underneath the fucking? Is it emotional regulation, embodiment, intimacy, literacy, something else?
I mean, again, the short answer is yes. The way I, expand on that is if we all have better relationships that last longer, we'll have a better world that lasts longer. Right now, we measure the success of our relationships by how long you've been together. That's pretty much the only measure of success these days. Oh, wow, 50th wedding anniversary. Congratulations. Is it a congratulations if you've been miserable for 45 out of those 50 years, not talking to each other, at odds in your own home? That's not what I would call success. So learning how to actually build partnership. We treat a lot of us are told socially that relationships are like this destination we get to, this thing we get. And that a thing you get is not something you're partnered in, that's something you own. So we're approaching relationships not only like a destination rather than, not to overutilize the term, but the journey, which is again why I say relation trip. But it's also an ownership component, my husband, my wife, my girlfriend, my boyfriend, my partner. Is it a partnership? Because that ownership concept has got to go out the window. What are you creating together? Which is something new. If you're in a couple, you're actually already in a threesome. There's you, your partner, and the relationship. And that relationship deserves its own time, attention, and effort. It's not just, what have you done for me lately? You're not meeting my needs. What does the relationship need? And that's the same with leaders, right? If you're the leader of a nation, of a company, of whatever, you're in partnership with your team, with the people in your country, whatever it is. How are you giving that relationship what it needs?
I love that. Now, in your own life, how do you balance being dominant and directive in the world while choosing submission in the bedroom with your dominant partner? Do you think you would crave submission less if you weren't so dominant and directive in the world? Is it sort of a psychological balancing mechanism for you in some way?
It is most certainly a balancing mechanism. But to answer the other part of your question, if I wasn't so assertive and driven in the other areas in my life, I wouldn't be happy. So it's, chicken or the egg, for lack of a better term. Like they go hand in hand. They're a part of my identity, at least currently, how I move through the world, how I understand things. For me to not, regardless of what it is I'm doing or pursuing, whatever it is I do or pursue, I do so full on. I enjoy that. That gives me a sense of purpose and fulfillment and clarity. I get a lot from living that way. And I prefer to live that way. And discovering and learning more about power dynamics and really leaning into that, I now can look back at my relationship history and be like, oh, I see why I showed up that way, because there was no balance. I had to be driving that relationship as well. I don't want to do that. And that doesn't mean I'm not very participatory in my relationships. Because again, I've learned a lot more about power dynamics. It's not like the sub is sitting on the sled and the dom's pulling it. Like it is a partnership very, very much. But it's a type of partnership that allows me to find those soft edges in a safe way, because I don't generally feel emboldened or safe exploring those out in the real world, if you will. But it is, I'm trying to think how to articulate it well, because that isn't, at least as far as I'm aware thus far, trauma or anything. That's just not how I enjoy being in the other, roles in my life, in the other parts of the world. I enjoy having that softness and that quietness and that sort of submissive experience in an intimate environment with specific person or people.
The best of both worlds, right?
Very, very much. I also do experience my life like I like to say my brand is sensual professional, because I don't see sex and then everything else. I've always been very confused by that, because there is no everything else without sex. And finding my sensual empowerment impacted every area of my life, as a leader, as a business owner, as a friend, as a sibling, like so many different areas. And that doesn't mean I'm like having sex with all these people. It's just owning that energy within myself. It just brings everything together. So I don't have this sort of separation in the same way.
You said that finding your sensual empowerment changed everything. So how did you find it?
I mean, it certainly wasn't like one day. It was an ongoing exploration of various things in my life. Because also, when I say sensual, it's not exclusively sexual. It's certainly involved in my sexual experiences,
right? But
it's just a level of mindfulness and awareness to my experience as a human animal. Like, what am I seeing, hearing, smelling, feeling, intuiting, all of that, right? And it just made me more present. I think a part of that was, various things. I was exploring all kinds of different meditation practices as a part of my self-development journey. Found ones that didn't really work for me, found some that did. I was in Japan studying Zen meditation and Japanese psychology for a time, lived at a temple, and found that Zen meditation, not my jam, just not into it. I see the value, I get it, not for me. But mindfulness, for example, definitely, a branch of that really, that impacted me deeply. And that mindfulness is sensuality. It's just being so present and aware of anything. It's the concept of, anything is yoga, right? Like, I can meditate at any time. I could be walking to the grocery store and decide, you know what, this walk is going to be a meditation. What am I seeing that I've never seen before? I've done this walk 100 times. I've never noticed that tree. Wow. Look at that. That's mindfulness. That's my sensory exploration of the world. That's my sensuality. And then dropping it into the, erotic realm, the sensual empowerment was movement for me, I think was a big part of that. I'm the first person in my family to get into fitness and nutrition. So that's looked a lot of different ways, from running to the gym to yoga to all kinds of stuff. And then I discovered fitness pole dancing, but I went to a studio that's very, very different than the average studio. S Factor is what it's called. And it's very much about your internal journey, less so about like the performance. And it was just, I wish I had more words. It was so raw and beautiful and powerful and uncomfortable and juicy and magnetic and frenetic. And I just found how my body likes to move, because she loves to move, but I always struggled with sort of choreography and getting permission to move my body to those sounds in that way with other people present. It was just such a permission slip to dive even deeper. So I think it was a mixture of, like I said, mindfulness, meditation, and then just that movement meditation, really.
What a journey from the Zen temple to the pole studio. I love it.
It's still Zen, baby.
Now, many people believe that they must choose between security and erotic novelty. I even noticed this myth playing out when I watched the Netflix show Sex Life recently, which is about a mother married to a secure, nice man, and yet she finds herself fantasizing about the bad boys of her past, and she feels like she can't have both. Where do you think that belief comes from, and is it true? Do we have to choose between security and erotic novelty?
Well, the short answer to the last part of that question is I do not believe so. No, but it requires a high level of communication and negotiation in the partnership known as your relationship. So there's something that I call compound meanings that are prevalent throughout society. It's something that I see in a lot, if not all, of the couples that I work with. And it is the sort of merging of definitions of words that aren't synonyms as synonyms. A big one is, for example, marriage, love, and commitment. or excuse me, love, sex, and commitment. And marriage kind of gets lumped in there sometimes. But love, sex, and commitment are not actually synonyms. They are ingredients that you can have in your relationship if you want, but they don't necessarily go together. Like, we can enjoy sex with people we don't love. We can love people we don't have sex with. We can be committed to multiple things and multiple people in our life. But we have to define what these things are. So that's part of the work I do with couples who first come to me is let's look at these words. What is cheating? Tell me exactly what that means to you, because this is something that tears so many couples apart unnecessarily. They both have completely different definitions, have never talked about it. And one of them's doing something unknowingly that the other one considers cheating, whether that's watching porn, flirting with a coworker, but it never goes anywhere, what have you. Their definitions are what's important. So if you're in a loving partnership and you still love each other and everything's going smoothly and you're curious about something else and either they're not interested in that, or I'll use an example. A friend of mine, her husband has a very specific interest in certain BDSM dynamics that he cannot play out with his wife as the mother of his children. He just can't move past that framework for her. So they've negotiated an open dynamic for their relationship where they each are able to date because they're both interested in that. But they don't want to throw away their very long-term relationship with kids and house. And they have a very effective, successful relationship. They love each other. They still enjoy sex together. But there's a couple specific things that they enjoy with other people. But that takes a lot of communication and negotiation and getting rid of these ideas that, oh, if you're attracted to somebody else, then that means you are, not attracted to me or less attracted to me. There's not 100 love points or 100 attraction points, and you have to take 5 away from your partner to give to somebody else. That's not how it works. But that's why I'm so obsessed with the concept of relationship design. Why would you throw out a fantastic relationship just because one component is no longer the way or needs to change? Say you're great parents together, you're great nesting partners, you live together, you have a business together, whatever it is. But maybe the sex just isn't interesting to you guys anymore, but you're interested in having sex, just not with each other. Why would you throw out an entire relationship just because one component of the relationship needs to change? It's such a loss. It's such an unnecessary disruption, in my humble opinion. And so I work with couples to create the agreements that enable them to explore that novelty or whatever it is in a way that's mutually respectful. I give them tools to navigate the inevitable, bumps along the way. And generally speaking, it ends up evolving their relationship into something even more fulfilling and dynamic than they ever imagined.
Beautiful. Sounds like really lovely work.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. I just want to caveat super quick. What I'm not saying is the only way to have security and novelty is to open up your relationship to play with other people. That's not what I'm saying. There are many, many versions. That can be one of them. But you can absolutely explore erotic novelty within a 2-person relationship. You can even do it by yourself.
Definitely. Now, another tradition on the podcast is exploring a research article with you. And today's is titled The Fewer, the Merrier, Assessing Stigma Surrounding Consensually Non-Monogamous Romantic Relationships. So let's talk about opening up relationships. They looked at relationship satisfaction, emotional well-being, and communication and stigma, and compared non-monogamous relationships to monogamous ones. And what they found was striking. People in consensually non-monogamous relationships were no less satisfied, secure, or psychologically healthy than their monogamous counterparts. In many cases, they reported higher levels of intentional communication and relational clarity. Perhaps most importantly, the study showed that the biggest source of distress wasn't the relationship structure itself, it was social stigma and lack of relational education, not harm or instability. So this research is clearly showing that stigma is social rather than evidence-based. How does that align with what you see in your coaching work?
Intrinsically aligned. Couldn't agree more. The work I do doesn't just benefit people who are looking to open up their relationship to polyamory or any other form of consensual non-monogamy. Learning relationship design skills benefits all relationships. This study that you're referencing, I need so much more. We need more. This is the beginning. It's so exciting to see something like this come out, because it's exactly what it says. The struggle is the stigma, and the stigma is emotional. The stigma is propaganda based. It's not evidence based. A relationship structure is not what gives you security. Relational skill is what gives you security.
You've said that you blew up your relationship in the past when trying to open it up, and you've since learned all the hacks and skills needed to help others not to repeat your mistakes. Can you take us through what happened in that relationship and the mistakes that were made and how you teach others not to repeat them?
Absolutely. I like to say I've learned everything the hard way, so you don't have to. I've kind of always been that way. I'm like, yeah, I know this is what they say, but let me try it. Yeah, that sucked. They're correct. Yeah, I mean, this was back in 2016, before I'd ever heard words like compersion, polyamory, ENM, any of that. Before I knew, my understanding of play parties, even though I didn't even have that language, was, I'd seen Eyes Wide Shut, so there's stuff. But I had no understanding of the space that I'm deeply entrenched in now. For me, I'm a nerd. So if I notice a pattern, I get curious about changing it to see what happens. So, this is before 2026, let's call it, or 2026, excuse me. It is 2026. Before 2016, let's call it 2013, 2014. I noticed that I was what I call now a serial monogamist. So what that meant is I would be in a relationship for about the same amount of time, then I'd be single for about the same amount of time before getting into the next one. So I'd generally be in a relationship for about 2 years. I'd be single for about 4 months, bam, into the next one. And so I was like, oh, pattern. I wonder what would happen if I stayed single for longer than I usually stay single. I wonder what's on the other side of that. And what I discovered is that what's on the other side of that was all of my shit. So that is what began my personal development journey, learning more about myself, my interests, what do I need, what is me outside of being a girlfriend. And at the time, I was only dating men. I was very, very closeted in all the ways. And so I started learning more about my desires, my interests, my curiosities. And I still got into a few more monogamous relationships with men. But at this point, I at least had a better understanding of I think I'm actually really curious about women and a few other things. And so I was able to kind of hint at these things, bring them up. And I think it was 2 different relationships landed on sure, we can have a threesome with another woman. Never manifested. But then I got into what inevitably became my last monogamous relationship. And this was a person who was on the road a lot. They traveled a lot for work, and I would join him when I could, but I wasn't always available. And so, well into the relationship, I'd say 1.5 years, maybe just under 2 years into the relationship, I kind of started hinting at these interests. And I wish I could remember more in detail. I was definitely the one that brought it up. It was definitely me. Definitely could have done it in a better way. We can talk more about that in a moment, but I'll get you through the story first. But I basically started hinting at it. And I said, you know what? If you're on the road one of these times, I'm not with you. If you, meet somebody at the event you're speaking at, or maybe at the hotel bar or whatever it is, and you hit it off, take a consensual PG-13 photo so I know who you're hanging out with, have a great time, and then tell me about it afterwards. And so one of the times he did end up meeting someone, sent a photo, super cute, was really excited. And they ended up staying up all night talking, which is great. It felt great. I was excited. I was glad we were on this journey and celebrated that. And then another time he was out of town, and I had a friend coming back into town who had moved away, and we'd known each other for about 6 years. We had a sexual history. We had played together and explored that, and really knew that there was no romance. It was we are 100% friends. We're also just 2 hot people that like having sex. So why would we not do that? And so I was like, this is great. This is super safe. This is not a romantic interest, somebody I already know and trust. I think this is the, safest possibility there could be. What do you think? So my partner gave me what he called his green light. My friend and I had a wonderful night together. Ended up finding out his last relationship had been an open relationship, which I didn't know either. And this experience opened up for me what I call expansive love. So even though my partner wasn't physically there with me, he was so very deeply a part of that experience for me. I felt so much connection, so much love, so much loyalty, so much gratitude. I was just bursting. And we had agreed that I would call him after my time with my friends. So left my friends, gave him a call, just again, overflowing with love and appreciation. And just, what do you want to hear? And then it was just dead silence on the other end of the phone. And then all he said was, I can't believe you did it. And I still don't know to this day if it was like, I feel like it was one of two things. It was either like, okay, he's like testing me because he didn't, and therefore he loves me more and whatever else. Or maybe he really did think he'd be okay with it. And then just, got flooded with all those emotions and unexpectedly and couldn't handle it and just, shut down. I don't know. But what I do know is we spent the next couple of weeks trying to figure it out. It was very painful. There were other issues in the relationship. This certainly did not end because we opened up. I don't feel that it was handled particularly well. We sought the counsel of a couple of our friends who had actually introduced us. And this is actually something I don't necessarily advise folks who are working with me. We got very, very lucky, or I should say I got very, very lucky. But this couple who we were friends with, very much monogamous, bit religious. And they sat down with us and they said, look, this is clearly something that's very real for Ally. She stayed within the bounds of your agreement, so you don't get to make her wrong for that, but you do get to decide whether or not this is something you want to explore with her. And that validation, I don't think I realized at the time how deeply impactful that was. I will forever be grateful to them because that is not normally what happens when you seek counsel from folks who have no experience or understanding of any kind of consensual non-monogamy or anything outside of the, socially prescribed compulsory monogamous structure we see. But that really helped me get that confidence to be like, yeah, actually, this really is real for me. This is like identity level stuff. I do need to explore this. Still tried a little bit, really very quickly imploded, and I ended the relationship, and I'm very proud of myself for doing so. But I said, this is real. I want to explore this. I don't want any more emotional casualties on my conscience, so I'm going to do it solo for now. And proceeded from there. And that was back in 2016. So the big, the highlights, if you will, of the mistakes are I certainly could have handled it better as far as how I brought it up, how we talked about it. I didn't have the language. We didn't talk about, boundaries, desires, interests. Like it was very much proceeding at the pace of my interest. And something I recommend to couples is if you're actually exploring this together, not you want to do it and you're pulling somebody along. If you want to explore this together, most likely you're not both at exactly the same level of curiosity. Maybe, but generally there's one person in the couple who's a bit more reluctant. That's the person who sets the pace. When I say reluctant, that isn't somebody who's like, well, I'm going to do this because I don't want my partner to leave me. That's coercion. That's not consent. So two people who are, maybe they're nervous, maybe perfectly reasonable to be scared, nervous, unsure, but open to the possibility. You may not be exactly at the same pace. So the more reluctant partner sets the pace. And that's not what we did. I set the pace. I was more interested. I was more excited. We didn't talk about it nearly enough. We definitely didn't educate ourselves about what this even was. And we just sort of dove in. Like, imagine if you'd never gone swimming and you're like, you know what? I've heard about this thing called swimming. I want to do it. I'm going to go jump in the ocean. Like, no, you get lessons. Maybe you read about it. You go to the local pool, you do a group lesson, you do private lessons. You got to get the right equipment. Like, there's a process to learn about something that is not explored at all socially anywhere. Like, being curious is step one. Step two is not doing it. Step two is learning about it. Do you even know what it is that you want? And why? So that's definitely one of the biggest ones. And your support systems are so important. Like I said, we got very, very lucky. the response that our friends gave is by far not the norm when people seek support from family, friends, when they're going through this. Make sure you're getting support from experienced, knowledgeable people. And if you don't have those folks in your life, professionals who are, again, experienced and knowledgeable. Most couples therapists are not trained in diverse relationship dynamics. Most couples therapy programs, curriculum, what have you, comes from a very mononormative lens where the, duo is the ideal. That's not because, therapists hate polyamorous people. It's just, again, it's lack of education. That is changing. There are way more programs now that offer it as an option than there have ever been before. But look for, whether it's therapist, coach, counselor, who is specifically notes that they have either personal experience and or education around diverse relationship dynamics, if that's something you're looking to explore. I mean, I could go on and on. So many mistakes. There were a lot of other just intrinsic communication issues in the relationship. There was definitely some anger management work that could have been done on my partner's end. But I'd say those were kind of the big ones, like really, really learn about what this even is and put some effort into understanding why you're curious, and know that the more reluctant partner is the one who needs to set the pace.
That's great advice. Thank you. So for those listening that are wondering about it, how do you know that you're ready to explore non-monogamy?
How do each of you respond when something doesn't go the way you expected, when something makes you uncomfortable? Do you react? Do you have coping mechanisms? Do you lean into that discomfort together? That is a big tell. Can you hold the discomfort? Can you be with uncomfortable feelings and experiences? Because that discomfort is not the same thing as being unsafe. It is uncomfortable to grow. When you go to the gym, you're building, muscle. That's not a comfortable experience. You're tearing muscle tissue down to get stronger. It's always, the weights are always heavy, but you're just getting stronger. So it's uncomfortable to grow. I like to say they're not called growing pleasures, right? It's a bit uncomfortable. So when you're hitting the edges of your comfort zone, AKA your boundaries, which are designed to be pliable so that they can be pushed consensually in order to grow, it's uncomfortable. New territory is uncomfortable. So if you react to discomfort, if you avoid it, if you avoid things like jealousy, you're not necessarily in a place to really start exploring this territory. Consensual non-monogamy is relationship exposure therapy. Everything that we think we get to avoid by slapping, monogamous onto our relationship is not avoidable in consensual non-monogamy. And quite frankly, even if you're in an allegedly monogamous relationship, statistically speaking, you're still not avoiding those things either. But in a consensually non-monogamous relationship, at least you're actually talking about them and you can really sit with them and be with them together.
So say you feel like you are ready, your relationship is in that place where you will handle the discomfort well. How do you recommend bringing it up to your partner? You mentioned that you could have done this better in your journey. What have you learned about that?
Well, I really recommend, if this is something that you've never talked about before, your partner's never mentioned, it's something that, as far as you know, you're at least now the only one interested in it. You don't go, hey, I want to do this thing. That it's going to put you at odds with your partner, because that's going to be uncomfortable, and it's very natural to pull away from discomfort. Because again, we have a whole society built around avoid discomfort because it feels unsafe, even though it's different. So bring it up in a way that is presented from curiosity so that you can be on the same team about it. Hey, I saw this article. I heard about this study, the one on this podcast called Psychology of Desire. And I'd love to read it with you, watch it with you. If it's a movie, whatever it is, can we read it together? Can we explore this together? I'm curious what you think about it. Have you heard of the term consensual non-monogamy? What have you heard? What do you think? Get curious about your partner. Step one is not there's no step that is convince your partner. That's not what the conversation is ever meant to be. It should be an invitation to be curious together. Step one is understand where your partner is coming from, not get them to want to be open with you. Curiosity should be leading the way here.
Beautiful advice. Thank you. Okay, let's chat more about you and your journey. As part of our conversation today, I asked you to bring along something to share, such as a quote, book, or a movie that's influenced your eroticism. Can you share with us what you've brought along today and how it's shaped your erotic realm?
Goodness. I feel like there's been so many chapters in that. You know what? If you'll allow me, I'd love to talk about, actually, it's a very, very early on. I never really went through the cooties phase, like, oh, boys have cooties. Like, I had my first quote unquote boyfriend in like first grade. My first kiss was a French kiss. Like, I just never had this sort of like, oh no. So it was very early on exploring things I didn't understand within myself. But for me, Aladdin was the film, the animated film Aladdin was unexpectedly illuminating, and it has continued to be as I've gone through different phases in my life. So as I started understanding that my sexuality wasn't necessarily as straight as I perhaps had wanted it to be, I was like, okay, that makes sense why I was kind of feeling the way I was feeling about Jasmine, and kind of unpacking that. And then as I've, gone further into my relationship orientation, for example, when I first started exploring different ways of dating and relating, I've dated couples. The term you'll hear often is unicorn, and, mixed feelings about how people feel about that word necessarily, but generally it means a single person. Generally it's referencing a bisexual woman who is single, has no attachments or needs of her own, who plays with couples. And you'll hear it most often in like the swinger space. But I really enjoyed dating couples. I found myself attracted to the relationship, not necessarily either one of the partners per se. I mean, I've certainly had those experiences. Maybe I was more interested in, if it was a heterosexual couple, woman, but I've dated hetero couples, queer couples, gay couples. I really just wanted to experience life. And so I didn't have a word for that. Recently, I want to say within the last couple of years, the term Symbiosexuality has been coined, and it's to refer to exactly what I'm describing. I was very much attracted to the existing dynamic, to the secure relationship that already existed between those two people. I wasn't trying to date one or the other of them. I was really dating the relationship. So again, if you're in a couple, you're already in a threesome. The relationship is its own identity in a lot of ways. And so now looking back at Aladdin, I realized, yeah, sure, I was also attracted to Jasmine, but it was really just like the adventure of their relationship. And they were such teammates, and they gave each other such permission, and they had so many differences, but their core values were the same. And they just grew so much together that I realized it was actually the relationship as well that I was really interested in. I wanted to climb up on that magic carpet ride with both of them.
I love it. Symbiosexuality. I haven't heard that term before, and that's a perfect term for what you're describing. Where does that come from? Do you know who coined that?
Shoot, I would have to. It's shoot.
That's okay. I'll have to look it up.
I will find it and I will send it to you. It was. I want to say it was within the last 2 years.
Wow.
I think it was my friend and colleague, Dr. Marie Tuin, who exposed me to the word first. It might have been a presentation she gave, but I'll find it and I'll send that to you.
I love that. That's a beautiful term.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a feeling about where this question might go based on how you answered that one. But I always ask guests about a peak erotic experience that they've had. I'm curious to know if this is with a couple for you. So what's a time that just really stays with you, an experience that just really stays with you, and something that you think about a lot?
My goodness. I'm blessed to say I have many peaks. Oh my goodness. Okay. Am I allowed to share too? Is that?
Of course. Yeah, we have time.
Is that within bounds?
Share as much as you like.
So I'll share like the initial one will be very short and sweet. My first play party, AKA sex party. So like I said, at the time, this is shortly after that end of that, my last monogamous relationship. And I was sort of like, okay, universe, like I've seen Eyes Wide Shut, like what's out there? And first I want to say you do not have to go to play parties if you are non-monogamous, and you do not have to be non-monogamous to go to play parties. But for me, I was curious about all the things. And I eventually found myself invited to a play party, my first one ever. And I was just so happy to be there. Like biggest grin on my face you've ever seen. And I just, took the pressure off myself. I went solo. I said, I don't have to do anything. I just want to like see what kind of people go and what this is about, and like, cool. And it had a lovely evening, connected with beautiful people. And it was kind of earlier in the evening than I would have thought. And I had noticed it kind of like cleared out. And I was like, okay, like, I mean, everyone was really lovely. I guess some people were like making out and stuff. But like, honestly, I kind of thought there'd be like more action, and that the party would go on longer. And so I said this to one of the hosts who knew it was my first party. And she goes, oh, honey, come with me. And she leads me down this hallway that we're in like a penthouse suite in a nice hotel. And this hallway I hadn't even seen. And like it opens up into this room that I can only refer to as the orgy room. And orgy is not synonymous with play party, but you can have an orgy at a play party. And it was just this like sea of undulating bodies, like a Renaissance painting. Like it was like literally like I entered the room and it was just like it was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. I dropped so completely into my body, and it wasn't even necessarily like a turn on. It was just like a presence, like deep and resonant presence. And it was just the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. And I couldn't move. I was just captivated. And, the night proceeded, but it was just probably akin to that night with my friend where I was like, oh, wow, this is real. This has unlocked a whole new part of me. The same experience. I'd say those were kind of two of the most defining moments in my sexual and relational journey for sure early on. And then it was just kind of this feeling of like, oh, I'm safe. I'm not alone. I'm not weird. There are other people like me. It's okay. It was so beautiful. And then another one is I had what I call my atomic orgasm. I'm at another play party. This one I was actually a part of the leadership team for many years. And I do things differently now. If I throw an event, I do not participate. It's that event. At the time, I was newer in my journey and we didn't have those boundaries that now exist, but for very good reason. But at the time I was playing with some folks, and it was a room. There were other folks playing, unrelated to our scene. My scene was a group of, I want to say it was 3 women and a guy. And I was kind of the center focus for a good portion. And I was getting very, very worked up, very, very excited, realized I was nearing climax, and it just like erupted out of me, and it literally rippled around the whole room. I orgasmed, my group orgasmed, everyone around us started. It was the most insane thing I have ever experienced. And that's why I call it like an atomic orgasm, because it kind of like central and then just like rippled out throughout the rest of the room. It was a very connective experience, and yes, will live in my memory forever.
Wow, I can see why. That sounds incredible.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Okay, so there are things from your past. What about the future? What's something that you're looking forward to experiencing or exploring?
God, so much. It's so funny with like everything I talk about and I study and the work I do and all of that. I don't really have like specific fantasies. I'm very much someone who's like, oh yeah, that sounds interesting, or like, oh, this looks cool. Like I'm just yes. I say like I'm a yes sexual. Like I'll try anything twice, and it just makes me laugh because I'm a very creative person. I help other people discover fantasies and understand their desires and fantasies, but I don't have a lot of particular like scenes or like things I'm interested in. I'm just curious about life. Like I love dating. I love exploring. I love getting to watch my partners learn more about themselves through either our relationship or other connections. I'm excited for my 2 partners who are not dating each other. They both date me. I'm excited for them to spend more time together and just to build that connective tissue. Whether they ever date or not is not my concern, but just, more connection within our little polycule. I'm really, really looking forward to starting to throw events again once I'm a bit more settled here. But I really am very, very excited to start bringing people together intentionally and socially and sensually to connect. Because at the end of the day, for me, sex is a potential byproduct of connection. It's by no means the destination necessarily for me. I'm very curious about all the different ways that we connect with ourselves, that we connect with each other, and that we connect with the global community at large.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Is there anything that we haven't covered today that you'd like to speak to?
Probably. Let's see. It's probably been said numerous times and, throughout all of your content and your episodes and all of your beautiful writing, but just shame is the most useless emotional experience, in my humble opinion, that you can have. It's not even yours. It's from other people. It's limiting the access to yourself. It's limiting your connective potential with others. When you shut off any particular, feelings because they're wrong or whatever it is, you actually shut off all of it. So if, you're trying to squash jealousy because it's wrong, you're actually also squashing your potential for pleasure. It's just your experience to feel. So like shame, again, it's not even yours. It was given to you. It's not serving you. It's limiting you. So if there's nothing else that you get from this episode, remove it, whether it's related to your sexual life, your relational life, any of it. It's not even yours. Let it go.
That's really powerful. Thank you. So where can people find out more about you and your offerings?
Thank you. So it's Passport to Pleasure, and that's the number 2, Passport to Pleasure, either .com, on Instagram, Substack, TikTok, YouTube. Instagram, you can also follow me personally. Ally Iseman is my handle, but it's Passport to Pleasure on all the things. On my website, you can see all the different online resources I have, from my relationship design course, ENM 101, to private coaching, to my mastering jealousy bundle, my intimacy deep dive bundle. I have an open relationship starter kit, of tons of online resources. For my private coaching, I only work with 5 clients at a time because I really, we go deep, because my intention is to not see you for the rest of your life. I want to give you the roadmap for your relationship so that you can have the most fulfilling relational journey possible for the rest of your life.
Wonderful. So if you had to sum up your eroticism in only one word, what would that word be currently and why?
Curious. I think curiosity has, despite what they say about it doing to cats, it has certainly treated my pussy well. I find that it leaves me open for far more experiences, including ones that, I don't necessarily enjoy, but now I know. And so I don't do them again. It allows me to hold things with a looser grip, less attachment, more play. I find curiosity to just enable the full potentiality in all areas of my life, including my sensuality and my eroticism.
I love that. Well, Ally, thank you so much for sharing your erotic realm, for bringing clarity, humor, and responsibility to conversations about power, pleasure, and how we choose to love. You've shown that intimacy isn't about having fewer rules, it's about better ones. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Beautiful. I really appreciate those words. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure chatting to you. I'm Em, and this has been the Erotic Realm Podcast. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Erotic Realm Podcast. This is an independent podcast, and if you want to see more episodes made just like this one, you can support it at psychologyofdesire.com by becoming a paid subscriber and entering the realm with many other supporters. The mission of the Erotic Realm is to humanize kink and desire in all of its forms. And we can't do that without you. So until the next time, stay perverted.